Hello and welcome to the Never Heard of It podcast. I'm Craig Moorhead.
And I'm Shawn Harwell, and this is a podcast where we talk about some movies that we have failed to see. We are on Twitter at Never Podcast. We are also online at neverheardpodcast.com. Come say hello.
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 Shawn?
Hey, man.
So this week's movie is Born to Win, a 1971 movie starring George Segal, Kareny Black, Hector Elizondo, and sort of Robert De Niro, I guess.
Yes.
If you've seen the posters, there's only one that seems like a real movie poster, and the rest of them seem like it's all about Bobby.
Yeah, they look like somebody was painting just some fun paintings of Robert De Niro to sell at a kiosk in the mall, like those black velvet ones that you see. That's what those look like to me.
Super high quality stuff. Here is our usually overwritten summaries on IMDb have shrunk down measurably for Born to Win. Yes, and the summary is this. A smart-mouthed junkie loser known as JJ, George Segal, spends his days looking for just, quote-unquote, one more fix.
Chasing the dragon.
I don't know why they put that in quotes. He's quite literally looking for one more fix. He's kind of hustling on the streets of New York, trying to make money, trying to, I don't know.
Fall in love a little bit?
Fall in love, yeah. He's trying to quit, and it's not quite working out. So, Shawn, you said you'd never heard of this movie.
Not at all.
Let's start with your impressions.
Well, first of all, the title, I had to think that this was going to be some sort of sports competition movie, right? Mm-hmm. And then, I pull it up. I think the summary was slightly different on Amazon because there was some mention of Segal being a hairdresser.
Right.
Which, I feel maybe that got mentioned twice in the movie.
Yeah, it barely came up.
I don't even know if I would have noticed that in the movie itself had I not read it beforehand. But anyway.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was not expecting George Segal. I was not expecting him to be a junkie. This movie took various turns that I did not expect. Mostly, though, I felt like that this was just payback for me making you watch The Swap and that whole debacle. And, I think we've now sort of cornered the market on the completely non-essential Robert De Niro movies. I think we've pretty much got it right here between these two podcasts.
Yeah.
I also, I guess the first thing I noticed was this is probably the worst looking video on the internet. It looked terrible. I don't know.
It was bad.
Yeah, I have a video projector. I mean, it's not the nicest, newest one in the world, but it's enough that it should have looked better than it did, and it's really, really dark in places, and just I think the aspect ratio was wrong. Did you notice that during the opening credits, some people's names were kind of getting cut off on the right side?
I didn't know that. I had actually assumed it was, like a normal sort of Academy thing. But yeah, I didn't notice it getting cut off. But
mostly my takeaway from watching this, and I don't think that we need to. We can get into the plot, but I feel like that description sort of. I mean, that really does kind of tell you what this movie is about. He's sort of a small time con to the extent of he's trying to score and needs money to do so. So he's a very inept crook. He's not good at it. I don't think we ever see him really be successful in that manner. And so he bounces around a little bit from crime to crime. There's just my biggest takeaway from this movie is a matter of tone, and that's something that I've seen this described elsewhere. I think on the Wikipedia as a black comedy. I don't know. To me, it was not dark enough or funny enough to really sort of satisfy either of those desires or intentions. So it kind of did not work for me in that regard. That I felt I was never on like a sure footing or a solid foundation for exactly just sort of how I'm supposed to react to this movie.
Yeah, I feel like this is another one in sort of a string of movies we've watched where you can definitely take some really good moments out of it. You can just kind of pull out like, wow, some really cool stuff. But overall, it's another one that the tone is kind of all over the place. And one scene is incredibly broad, where he's been told to strip down and wait in a room. He puts on this pink robe, and I mean, it is. If you only saw that scene, you would assume the rest of the movie was a straight out comedy.
Yeah,
like there's nothing serious about it at all, and it steps way out of bounds of being a serious junkie movie.
And what? I liked that scene, actually. We can just take 1 second. He does put on that robe because that's the only thing, I guess, available, is what we're supposed to believe. He's stuck in this room while the guys that are, trying to figure out what to do with him are negotiating elsewhere in this apartment. But then, because he's worried for his life, he's looking out the window and notices a young woman who I'm going to call a woman. I don't know. Maybe she was like a teenage girl on the balcony of the adjacent apartment complex. So he starts waving and jumping around frantically trying to get her attention, and succeeds in doing that. And then is like trying to pantomime for her to call the cops. And when that doesn't work, he flashes her, which I thought was kind of brilliant because, she went inside and told her mom that this dude was over here at the next door, like flashing me. And so she went in and called the cops. So plot-wise, I thought that was kind of interesting. It was kind of clever.
Absolutely.
Again, tonally does not fit the rest of the movie whatsoever.
No. I mean, even the end of that scene ends in sort of an off-screen gunfight.
Like everybody dies.
And him like running from cops. Yeah, like who are not pleasant cops. They're not funny. So it's weird. I mean, it really, within a sequence, things would veer all over the place.
And I have no clue how he really got out of that apartment, by the way. I don't know if I looked down or what. The next thing I knew, he was just out and gone. I'm like, where is everybody? How did he do this? Anyway.
He ran out of like another door.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it. Like he apparently walked by the gunfight and ran out the door. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, Craig, let me ask how you heard about this thing then. Where in the world did Born to Win pop up on your radar? Are you a massive George Segal fan?
I am a George Segal fan. But no, I found this one. I think this was another one that I found because I was looking for stuff for us to do. Uh-huh. And I keep hoping I'm going to find, a 30 or 40-year-old movie with tons of famous people in it that's really good that for some reason like nobody's watching anymore. Haven't found that yet. But
we've come close. That's our mission, though. That's what we're doing. Yeah. We're digging for diamonds.
Exactly. I would hope so. I mean, the coolest thing is, we are finding. I'm not going to talk about how cool we are.
Well, if you want to, go ahead.
I won't stop you.
I'm not going to stop you.
But yeah, it was just searching for things online that I could that would be interesting to look at here, and it seemed like it was going to be a very serious-minded thing. It was probably going to have a very dark ending, and it would just be one of those things that came out of the early 70s that was gritty and, people just can't handle it, man, and that's why no one talks about it because they didn't watch it. So I do think there are things that you have missed if you haven't seen this, but yeah, I can see why it's not on the top of the list.
Well, I will say, if we want to talk about what's good in this movie, and what is interesting to me is that I also feel like this is a good example of what's bad in the movie, and that is Kareny Black, who is an actress I love, and I think most people probably know from Easy Rider and 5 Easy Pieces. Yep. She pops up in this thing, literally just walking down the street, and my first thought was, oh wow, this is Kareny Black is like playing a normal woman in a movie. I haven't seen that before. Right? She's just not like out of her mind crazy.
Yeah.
Because she's looking into a car that George Segal is in the process of trying to hotwire and steal. And ta-da, it's her own car. And we go from, oh, well, that's kind of interesting that a woman is seeing her car being stolen and kind of messing with this dude by not letting on immediately that it's her car as he's in the act of stealing it. And then she immediately is charmed by that, I guess. It's the strangest setup, I think, for a relationship, and so unbelievable. I don't know much about what 1971 New York was like. I have a couple ideas, and I don't think most women were looking into their cars as they're being stolen thinking, this might be a potential date. Now, they go back to her place, and it becomes pretty quickly apparent that, you know, she's into men, and this is not necessarily uncommon for her to have, like, you know, flings and, you know, bring dudes back and sleep her way through town, which again is sort of a disappointing justification, I think, for that character and for that motivation of them getting together in the first place. Like, you know, it's I don't know. I lost quite a bit of interest in her when she slept with him 3 hours after he was trying to steal her car. Did you make any heads or tails of that character? Because it ends up becoming a major through line of this script. I mean, of this movie, is their relationship and sort of where she stands on the sidelines of his addiction and her own interest and involvement later on in trying to, you know, score some money and do these jobs that he gets in over his head with his dealer. So I don't know. It was unfortunate because I do like her so much as an actress.
Yeah, I felt very much the same way. I didn't really understand where she was coming from most of the time. I didn't really understand the psychology behind how she met him and she wanted to still be with him. There's a bit later on where he comes back to her apartment, and I think it just cuts straight to her, and she is actually in hysterics crying, but I thought she was in hysterics laughing. Maybe that was just after when he escaped the mobster's apartment.
Right.
And he ran out of there.
She was laughing. Yeah. Wasn't she?
But no.
She was crying?
She was crying because she was like, "Oh, I thought you had been killed or something."
Right.
And I was like, and that was exactly my whole reaction to it. Was just like, "Wait a second, you're crying?" Like, I thought you were laughing about the fact that he was in this robe and all this stuff, but then she's actually crying, and all I could think was, you're that invested in this? So a lot of that didn't gel very well.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it's an unusual couple. I mean, it's not necessarily rote or something that we've seen 1,000 times. But I think you could also make the case of what exactly is it about her that George Segal is interested in. You know, other than the fact that I thought the whole thing was like he walks into her apartment and initially I think tries to rob her, right? Because he can tell that she's got money and
right.
Again, like I'm blanking on whether or not that ended up just being a joke or not, but I feel like it wasn't like initially.
No.
And so I kept thinking he's going to end up using her for money or something. And because that, again, made sense to me of what I know this guy to be and what, you know, typically might happen in that situation where two people are meeting this way and going back to her apartment that quickly.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is a bit odd. It's a bit, I think, unfocused. But again, there's moments in it that I think are really interesting. I actually liked the bit where, you remember he asked her how many men she's been with, and she just starts holding up fingers, counting off fingers, and then I think she gets to like 60, and he's like, "Where am I on that hand?" And she's like, "Oh, you're over here. You're the pinky." I mean, I think, you know, and again, I'm trying to remember. I think she says that she's even kidding afterwards that there wasn't that many, but I just like how they did that. I mean, it's sort of an actorly thing. Like, yeah, I kind of half imagine Kareny Black coming up with that herself.
Sure.
And maybe the crying thing was a bit of the same way, but that one kind of worked for me. I did think it was kind of cool, and there's just some nice moments between the two of them. Although, yeah, two actors I would not have really guessed to put together before this movie at all.
True.
You know, so it's kind of interesting in that regard as well.
Yeah.
And actually, let's talk about that then. Let's talk about George Segal as a junkie. My sort of knowledge of this man as an actor, I think, comes exclusively from Just Shoot Me, that TV series, and I think other sitcoms. Like, I've known him kind of as a sitcom-y actor, and specifically an older man. I had no clue that he had ever ventured into anything like that, and I don't know if maybe some of that was affecting my appreciation of what he was doing, or what's your take on that character and Segal as that character?
I remember him from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Okay.
And I think that was the first thing I'd seen of him.
Who was he in that?
He was Nick, right? He was the
I haven't seen that in so long.
The husband of so it's like, yeah, so it's
beautiful movie.
Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, and then it's the younger couple. So he was the husband of the younger couple.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But I do agree. It is interesting casting. I mean, at the time, it probably wasn't that interesting. I don't mean interesting, but it probably it didn't seem at the time. It probably didn't seem like casting against type.
Yeah.
Whereas now we think of him as like the responsible dad. Maybe he's a little bit goofy, but he's, you know. So yeah, he seems like too much of a mature man to be a junkie on the street. And you know, for that matter, his junkie friend doesn't look super junkie-ish.
No.
You know, like now you would have people with rotten teeth and skinny and sick looking. Like, there would be no question about it.
And actually, this is something I wanted to bring up later, but we'll do it right now.
Yeah.
There is another movie that came out this exact same year that deals with that New York heroin culture in an entirely different way, and that is The Panic in Needle Park, which...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was like Dustin Hoffman's like second or third movie. And that thing... That thing is bleak. I just watched that earlier this year. And
really?
It is a dark, rough movie, but really, really gritty and really, really good. And it goes to that area, I think, that we're kind of talking about, where, yeah, this feels like you were in there. I mean, this is one of the few drug movies, I was Born to Win, where I feel like, did we get a shot of a syringe going into anybody's arm?
No, the most we got were tracks. Like, I think that was the closest. You saw bags of heroin and you saw tracks, and that was it.
Yeah, it's so again, it's like that tone is it just doesn't quite go far enough into that world to really present the dark side of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Back to Segal, I think it's a pretty interesting performance. It's kind of I don't think he's the problem of this movie at all. Like, I sort of, even when he's dancing around being funny, and in that moment where he's wearing the robe and those sort of broader things, he's good at that. Like, there's levity there, and he's running from the cops, and he's just desperate. I mean, he's a loser, which I guess is the irony of the title.
He definitely belongs in the lead role of this movie, and you know, that's one of the few maybe confident feeling things about the movie. Is him. You know, he's 100% into the role. There are bits where, you know, he comes off very charming in order to try and steal something, or, you know, a lot of these bits where he...
You remember he was talking about an enema with that lady at the casino where they're trying to take... That's in like the first 5 minutes. So it's pretty funny, but like...
Well, and that's the thing, like little scenes like that are great.
Mm-hmm.
And you sort of feel like that's the kind of stuff the movie's going to be built on.
Yeah.
I do feel like you do sort of start to lose confidence because of things like the Karyn Black relationship and something else I was going to talk about later on. So he basically kicked heroin in like 12 hours.
Yeah.
That was another thing. It's set up a little early on where he talks about they're going to drive upstate.
Did it take you longer than that, by the way?
It's 18 hours.
Amateur. Okay.
Maybe that's all it is. But
you gotta get a Born to Win tattoo, and then you can do these kind of things, man.
I didn't do everything in order. but yeah, so it's little things like that kind of made the movie feel less and less confident or less knowledgeable about what it was talking about.
You do sort of you get that obligatory. He's got the shakes though on the beach.
Yeah,
he and Karyn, and he's in Karyn Black's lap with a blanket over, and she's kind of caressing him.
So it ends up kind of looking like, so you're gonna have a bad flu for the afternoon.
Yeah,
it's like that doesn't look so bad.
And then we might as well talk about the De Niro in the room and talk about De Niro.
Hey, Shawn.
Yeah.
Let's talk about De Niro.
Let's talk about Bobby D.
He's a cameo in this movie at best. He pops up in a few scenes and isn't even the dominant actor in those scenes. And yet, almost anywhere you see this movie online, you got a big De Niro face looking at you.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know, like one of those photos for one of the DVD covers, it doesn't even look like his character in this movie.
No.
But it's this giant potato head.
I'm pretty sure, the potato head shot is... I honestly think it's the same shot that they used for the swap.
Probably.
So there's a little cottage industry of people buying bad movies that De Niro was in and passing them off as De Niro movies.
But yeah, he plays I guess a detective in this, right?
Yeah.
And that was another thing. They keep busting JJ, Segal's character. And he's already got a history with him when they bust him. Right. And another scene that I thought was pretty cool was Segal goes and hides from these guys in a laundry room of an apartment complex and gets in the dryer, and then the other detective comes in and just turns the dryer on and he's spinning it and he's just sitting there watching him. It's kind of funny. But De Niro, oh man, he's still got that. It's kind of, I don't know, I did sort of appreciate seeing him as a law enforcement officer in an early role like this, since, it seems like he's always been on the other side of the law. Yeah. In most of the other movies I'm familiar with from this time period for him. I did see on the IMDb trivia that according to the director, De Niro almost got fired a couple times because he was basically just trying to make his character larger than the rest of the movie. And I don't know, did you get that sense when you were watching it?
Not in the least.
Me either. I don't. Maybe it would have helped the movie, to be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe he should have taken over.
Yeah. I mean, again, he seems like the sidekick to this other detective.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, he's the number 2 guy in that role for sure.
Right. And and it's anytime he's on screen, it feels like full on De Niro.
Yeah.
It seems like. That's exactly what De Niro would do. It's like he doesn't seem green at all. Like it's just like he was always that guy. Like he could have stepped into Taxi Driver right out of that scene.
He says the word baby a lot.
Yeah.
Come on, baby.
A lot of great 70s slang going on.
I was a little confused by their relationship as far as the plot's concerned with Segal's character. They bust him. He's just, I think Segal has been out of prison a year? Not long, mm-hmm. Right? He's already been in. And so they want to use him as an informant or as as bait. They're trying to get to Segal's dealer, who is played by Hector Elizondo, and the character's name is Vivian, although they call him the geek for some reason. It obviously doesn't mean because he's into like calculators and computers, but maybe that's like drug slang from the 70s. But I maybe I just tuned it out a little bit. I didn't quite follow how that particular storyline got resolved with De Niro and the other cop, as far as what they ended up getting from Segal, or I don't know. Did they get killed in that? No, that was other cops.
And that's a really good question, because I remember there being a feeling that when he came back from the beach, that he was gonna have to tie up all these threads.
Yeah.
You know, all these people have to get him. But you're right. I can't remember how any of that was resolved. I can only remember how the Vivian was resolved, only because that's the last scene.
And it felt weird to me that, like, they knew this guy. They had just busted him for stealing. Like, he broke into... Well, he didn't break into... He talked his way into a woman's house and stole the drugs from a mobster, basically, right? And ran out. The cops were there. They chased him. So they bust him with possession, not to mention theft, whatever. They held this woman at gunpoint. So even in a sort of plea arrangement like that, which is it's not even a plea, it's not like he's being sentenced yet. In an informant arrangement, they're just going to let this dude like go out on the street and go to the beach and get clean for this time. I mean, it seemed weird to me that they weren't on his ass the entire time. Like, as soon as you get out of line, you're going to jail. We can put you in jail right now, because of what we just busted you doing. So that whole thing felt maybe it was a byproduct of some stuff got cut, or it just didn't ever really resolve itself.
Yeah. Very possibly. He comes back from the beach. They drive back in. He takes $25 from her.
Right.
And then what is it that he goes and does? He goes to try and score. Mm-hmm. And that's when he gets mugged with his friend. It's
either that, or is that when the friend dies?
No, not yet.
Okay. Obviously, this plot held our attentions completely. Well, it was tough because the stakes weren't exactly kind of clear in some of those situations, whether or not he is going to score, or is he going to do this thing to help the police catch this guy?
Well, but you never really know what his goal is.
Yeah.
The closest he comes to having a goal is when he talks to Parm, who I kept thinking her name was Pam, and then I would see the name Parm.
Kareny Black, chicken parm. Yep.
Yeah. But he talks to her and says, tells her the thing about driving upstate, getting clean, and that whole thing.
Which also begs the question, because they did that, right?
Yeah.
Why not just keep going? Just go right on. I mean, or stay there.
Yeah, why would you ever go back? Yeah. It seems like the biggest pull he would have back to the city would be drugs again.
Or Parm, but she's with him. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And God knows what she does for a living. I mean, I have no clue. It seems like she could just go and do anything that she wants to, because that's kind of what she does. So.
Yeah. The opening scene.
Yes.
Is medium close-up of George Segal talking to someone, an unseen person, and I don't think we ever see the person. Do we? Like, I don't think it's ever revealed who the person is.
No.
And it's him talking, and then there are these little transitions between these sentences. That was my first tip-off that things might go awry, because all the things he's saying didn't really seem to add up. I think he talks about hairdressing there, and he talks about all these things, and he's kind of rambling.
Yeah, and he's using his hands a lot. It's it's a weird little monologue.
Yeah, and I don't
theatrical, I think.
Yes. Yeah, and it's all broken. It would be one thing if he just delivers a whole thing,
right?
But it seems like he was. I was assuming it was just like off the top of his head, like a bunch of stuff that he says, and they use it to pad it out. I know, like anytime I see something, it's like 88 minutes. It's like, I don't know, some of these scenes they're just trying to get it long enough.
Sure, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely I remember the tone of it being a little more serious in nature. which then made it a bit odd because that we cut from that and they're going, and he and Billy are going into the casino. Or what? I think it was was it a casino? I seem to remember it as a casino. Maybe it was just a restaurant or something. But to steal the safe from behind the secretary, and that whole thing. I mean, it's like it's like something out of Bottle Rocket. Like this idiots, like they are pushing the safe out on a little dolly out a revolving door, and he just completely loses track of it. Almost rolls right into like a taxi cab or a cop car or something, and. It's just they had to run. I mean, it's pathetic. It's like it's the bumbling crooks. And so I did not know that these were junkies at that point, and so it just was not setting me up for that at all. I mean, and maybe it was mentioned in that monologue, but I don't know. I didn't piece it together then for sure.
Yeah.
And then there's also just structurally, they use that one club as sort of a. They cut back to that a couple of times where that Paula Prentice actress who I think played was that supposed to be his ex-wife?
I was assuming so, but now she's with Vivian?
Yeah, it was weird. There was some discussion about her kids, which made it sound like it was as if Segal was talking about their kids, and he did mention to Parham with Kareny Black in that, obvious scene where they meet and have sex all in the same night after he's trying to steal her car. Typical New York love story. He mentions to her that he does have kids. But they go back to that setting, I think three or four times. And that's where Hector Elizondo is. There's also that weird moment where I think he buys some heroin and they go in the back room. Do you remember this? There's this really weird shot where I think Segal is getting shot up with a needle, but the way they shot it, like it looks like he's getting oral sex from the dude. Maybe I was just like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It was so weird because you only see like a portion of the other person's like a quarter of this person's body, and it's from the back, and it's just staged like that stuff. You don't think about it, but it's important because it can be read. The really I was thinking about that scene in Boogie Nights where he's like the dishwasher, at the club before he starts working for Burt Reynolds, Mark Wahlberg.
Right.
And that guy comes, people are coming in to see his giant girth. I don't know. That's what this club. That was the only like frame of reference I had for these like little club scenes.
Yeah.
They're so weird.
Yeah, maybe it was a comedy, Sean.
I think it was. I think I just made it one in my head. It's hilarious.
I think it had to be. I mean, from that beginning scene, he seems funny.
Yeah.
Like none of that seems serious. And then they do this bumbling, safe thing. And then by the end of the movie, he goes to Vivian after his friend just OD'd from a hot shot, from a bad bit of heroin.
I didn't know anything about that. That was kind of cool. They put like rat poison or battery acid or whatever.
Yeah.
A hot shot. They should have called. Why don't they call this movie The Hot Shot?
I know.
That'd be cool. Anyway,
it would have several different meanings. It would be great. Or score.
Score would have been good.
Mm-hmm. But so a movie that started off with the bumbling safe robbery, and then it ends with, well, I don't know. I'll ask you, Sean. What do you think about the tone of that last scene? Did it feel to you like Segal was fine with whether or not that like hit of heroin was going to kill him?
I don't know. I had the same question. I think I will go with yes. It did seem like he was resigned to either he's going to get high or he's going to die, and that was that. If I'm not mistaken, his girlfriend Parham had just been arrested, right? Didn't they take her away? So it ends with him on a park bench or something, or just a bench on the side. And he's sitting down in the middle of New York, and sort of contemplating the next step in possession of a package of heroin. And Yeah, I think I got the sense that this dude is possibly gonna die, and he's gonna do it anyway. But yeah, pretty dark ending for a movie that didn't really start out that way.
Yeah, like that. The last scene felt more like what I thought the movie was going to be all the way through.
Let me ask you though: is Trainspotting the only junkie comedy of note? Are there others that I'm not thinking of? Because I don't know. Could you have made this into a pure comedy? Not that drugs are funny,
right?
But sometimes addicts do funny things.
Yeah, Trainspotting is a comedy, but somehow it doesn't forget about how bad that whole life is.
Right.
Because I never felt necessarily offended by how funny Trainspotting was or anything. No. But
and that's part of the charm of that movie, I think, is that it is offensive in taste and sort of, there's a bit of shock cinema and shock value in some of that stuff. But again, it's like, part of the beauty of how that works is that, morally you are supposed to be repulsed by what's going on, but also entertained by it. I mean, I think that's kind of crazy and super cool and kind of exciting to watch something like that. I think that's why Trainspotting works so well. I don't know that there was an opportunity for such a story within Born to Win, but by God, maybe they should have tried it. I don't know. What about a slapstick version? That would have been amazing.
Well, and that's the thing too, is Trainspotting is really told from the point of view of Ewan McGregor, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like a memoir of that guy. So I think that helps you get away with a lot.
It's interesting too because it depends on the drug, obviously.
Sure.
Because marijuana, you've got an entire subgenre of stoner comedies.
Yeah,
you're never in any sort of like judgment of the characters because it seems pretty harmless.
Right.
And then I think they're also sort of cocaine comedies of sort.
They're definitely cocaine comedies.
Right? I think, you could say parts of Blow or parts of Boogie Nights. I mean, it feels like there's several movies that do some funny things in that world. I get maybe heroin is just maybe it's just too much. Maybe that Trainspotting will be the exception to the rule. I don't know.
There are no good crack comedies.
No, maybe not.
Which is a shame. And then the question becomes: can you make a heroin comedy if you yourself are not an addict? And mainly, just wondering, does that context make it not funny?
Interesting. So you're talking a little bit about authenticity, I guess, or
a little bit. Well, a little bit, but at the same time, if the latest heroin comedy just came out from this guy who's never tried drugs in his life, he just thinks it's funny that people are addicted to heroin. Then it's kind of like, it's not really funny. That's not a funny thing.
Well, I think
you have to have some kind of insight for it to actually feel funny. You can laugh at it.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and say I wish that weren't the case. I wish you could do that. Yeah. But I think you're absolutely right. In today's society, no, you can't get away with it. There's so much scrutiny over every single choice like that. You look at the casting of Emma Stone in what was that Cameron Crowe movie, Aloha.
Yeah.
People will find that. I think you're right. I think there would be some blowback from someone attempting to do that and coming from a place of zero experience or knowledge, just saying, no, I thought it was funny, so I wrote it.
Yeah. But it does seem like it would be really fun to write something like that.
Oh my God, yeah.
Where it's like all your characters just, we're overlooking Fear and Loathing.
I mean, but that's kind of all about the trip.
Well, yeah. Fear and Loathing is like a drug adventure movie.
Yeah, you're right.
Whereas this is like your drug slice of life movie. Mm-hmm. So a drug adventure movie is great.
It is, but that's also tough too because it's hard to sort of relate what is a non-literal experience in a something that's supposed to be kind of taken or experienced as literal by the sitting and watching a movie. Like it's hard to kind of get. I don't know. I think it is hard. I do like that movie a lot, but it is hard to get a sort of bearing on the insanity.
Yes,
I mean it works when you have that filmmaker and those people, and obviously that source material. I think we can both agree. Maybe there's something to the comedy, the hard drug comedy.
And on that note, as a little bonus to listeners, are you familiar with Deep Dream, the Google neural network algorithm?
A little bit. I have seen some of the artwork that it produces.
Yeah. Have you seen the video, the clips of Fear and Loathing that they put through there?
No, it sounds terrifying.
It's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, okay.
We'll definitely post it to the web. You have to see it because it will make you feel insane. And it's so... To have those images in motion, there's something about it that kind of reveals to you how your brain makes sense of things. Because you're watching it, and you see all these shapes, and you're the whole time you're watching it, like your brain is just trying to figure out what you're looking at, and it all looks like something. But then it's immediately gone, and it's so smooth. I don't know. It may be the closest you can really come to hallucinating without actually hallucinating.
Wow.
It's pretty wild. I really I really dug it, but I couldn't watch too much of it because it freaked me out. I had a little freak out.
Well, I think that would be the tolerance test for any movie trying to do something like that.
Yeah.
You got to have a story in there, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, even Fear and Loathing, the movie, I remember the first time I watched it where I felt like there was some point in it where I felt like this is kind of like when I'm stone sober and I'm like babysitting my drunk friends on a Friday night.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I'm just like, I didn't feel like I was a part of the party. And I feel like later on I kind of got into it a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, but there's a lot, there's definitely a market and a subgenre for that type of movie, like fever dream movie. I mean, a lot of... I'm just thinking about like David Lynch's like Lost Highway. I still like that movie.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, but it makes I couldn't explain it to you. Maybe you can. But yeah, there's a handful of practitioners that can kind of pull that off as really impressive filmmakers. And I would love to see more of those kind of things. But it's tough to do, and probably really, really tough for George Segal and Kareny Black to do in 1971. Although Kareny Black, Easy Rider, man, that had its moments for sure.
I know.
That whole
she
trip
was already
sequence in New Orleans.
Yeah. I hope when they do the director's cut Blu-ray of Born to Win,
when Criterion does it,
which I'm sure, yeah, and it'll just be Robert DeNiro's face again for no reason.
Yeah,
just on the front. I would love to know if there was anything more to that, and they couldn't salvage it. Honestly, these are the kind of movies I would love to hear the stories about and figure out how they became this. Like to have a commentary on it and just hear like a guy just like, we tried, but he could explain to you like, here's what I wanted to do, but then we couldn't get the shot, so the whole thing had to be scrapped, and that's why this doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like,
no,
man,
you never.
I would kill.
You never get commentaries for those movies, I don't think.
No,
they don't spend the money to record them. Yeah, it's too bad.
they really don't.
But yeah, so as always, if anyone listening knows anything more about this movie, please let us know.
And I think we've talked this one to death. So, Shawn.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about what's happening next week.
All right. So originally when we recorded this episode, I stumped Craig with the 1939 Alfred Hitchcock masterpiece, Jamaica Inn. That's right, Jamaica Inn. Is it a masterpiece? I don't know. I don't even think it's set in Jamaica. At any rate, it was on Amazon Prime the day we talked about it. The following night, it wasn't. It was gone. This is the problem with the digital age that we live in. So instead, next episode, we are still going back in time quite a bit. We're going to talk about the 1949 beautiful black and white drama by Max Ophuls called Caught. That's Caught. It's not the only movie called that, so check it out online and make sure you get the right one, 1949. You'll know it when you get it. It is on Amazon Prime as of today. Hopefully that stays the case. I think you should check this one out. It's a cool one. And as always, come back and listen next time.
subscribe on iTunes, and it'll show up right in your little podcast player there, and you don't have to do anything else except listen. Thanks. We'll see you next time.